we got there.
Boom! Welcome back to the Runeterra show after a 1 week hiatus. I hear myself echoing. Man, we got lots to talk about. Hey, we hit seasonals. Lots of congratulations to be given out. Aikado, Whatami, and Axel all making.
Am I still
making
Axel
top 32
on the podcast? God damn.
Oh yeah, that's not going to change until they get rid of that card. Let me tell you. Congratulations to all of you guys making top cut. Well done. What was everyone's records? Did anyone 8-1?
I 8-1'd.
I think
Nice.
Aikado had to 8-1. Me and Kevor got there with the 7-2.
Yeah. I 7-2, one of my losses being the disconnect bug, where I was pretty behind, to be fair, but maybe I could have realized some equity.
Damn.
I consider that not has a loss, because like who knows how it would have ended.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, we should talk about that too. I'd already like blocked it out of my mind to like moved on.
We'll get into it. We can get some.
Yeah, it was one of those awful moments where after it happened, there's kind of no way that's fair to fix it. Everything is just fucked. And like there was a bunch of people clamoring for different answers. It's like none of these actually fix the problem.
Before we go into it, I just want to say welcome back to Jordan.
Right.
Long time no see.
Welcome back.
We miss you.
I miss you the most though.
Glad to be back.
He's been talking every day. He
Journaling.
just wants to get into arguments with us, but it's like it's not.
These guys are all too nice. They're so
guys
annoying.
Are not Jordan.
You're weak.
Jason just wants to do the show to fight with.
Someone to talk
Jordan
shit to you. It's
time.
important. I got you.
That's right. Yeah, okay, so let's start with seasonals and then maybe we can move on to like new cards and stuff. So let's like start way back before we get into the actual seasonals itself. Let's talk about what everyone brought and like, I don't know, looking back on it, what you thought going in and if you would change anything. Okay, why don't you start because you got some spiciness.
So I ended up bringing Ezreal Victor Shellfolk, Scouts, and then I caved and I brought Pantheon. And honestly, Pantheon was great. Ezreal Victor Shellfolk also great. Scouts was like Scouts. I really wanted to beat Aphelios. I wanted to beat aggro. I wanted to beat control. A little weak into like Shrima and like banning Pantheon. And honestly, like the decks performed really well. I'm very happy with my lineup. I probably I don't know if I'm able to run it back in Top Cut. We'll see. Probably not. But overall, I'm very happy with my lineup. I think it did exactly what I needed it to, and the decks did well.
Nice, yeah, 8-1, well done.
I was very lucky in that, like, unlike the other people, I didn't have any issues, right? Like, in the round 3 thing, we played our game. I never disconnected from the client. My opponent never did. So I was very lucky to just be entirely unimpacted.
I also got to dodge that one. I 2-0'd my round 3 before the bugs started happening, so I never had to deal with that shit.
Yeah,
well, it's definitely a just pure luck moment, right? There's no way to know who that was going to affect.
From that.
No, it's a skill thing. 100% a skill thing. The people who brought cringe ass decks, those were the
Bro.
ones who got hit.
What was your lineup, Jordan?
So this was actually, I think, the first seasonal I've ever played what I think of as a 3 best decks lineup with, and I was not comfortable with it. I brought Aphelios, Pantheon, and Viego. And clearly it worked, right? Like I got the 7-2, we're in Top Cut, phew, but holy shit did I played like 6 mirrors, like 6 lineup mirrors where they were either close to or exactly on the same lineup I was. And like I had a few cool skill diff moments, but I felt like I needed way more luck than I should have if I had been able to find a more targeting lineup. Like I'm always the guy who wants to have won the match, but by the time we're done with the ban phase and not have to do this silly playing the game nonsense. Like, but when I'm relying on the cards I draw, I'm not happy with that. So I got to do a little bit better with my lineup prep.
That's fair.
Just coming up.
Yeah.
I might
Kev,
have had,
about you?
I might have had the most weird lineup. Like, if we think Shellfolk is a weird deck, I think it made a lot of sense in your lineup. But I straight up decided on my 3rd deck the night before because M-Duck hits my DM, thank God. And he's like, bro, like I know you're going to bring Aphelios. This deck is good. Here's Tristana, Teemo, Faye, Package, Ionia, Will of Ionia bullshit, and like it's the same deck. It's exactly the same deck, same matchup. Trust. Like, all right, trust, and I did trust, and it did work out. But yeah, like it was just based on Aphelios, and I wanted to be just good into as whatever things as possible. I did not want to bring, like Jordan did, Aphelios and Pantheon, because I felt like basically I would rely it a bit too much to chance, because now like it's either going to be mirrors, they're going to beat my Aphelios, or they're going to beat my Pantheon, or I'm trying to be right in the middle. And I found that just too inconsistent for me. But yeah, I faced 2 full-on aggro lineup, 2 full-on control lineup, and just random stuff in between. And like my lineup was pretty much designed to be good into those, and I was happy to just straight up ban Pantheon. That was the first thing. I was just like a ban Pantheon lineup with the third deck that was floating around for a whole week. I was on every deck. I played your Shellfolk deck. It could have been that. Like it could have been any other third deck with scouts, because I think Aphelios and scouts together, they're just like a very, very strong core when we get to ban Pantheon. And it was just about being good, and that's exactly what the lineup did.
Yep. I think that deck is really interesting. Here's a fun fact, though. So there are 2 people who made top cut playing or Fae Ionia.
Oh, I saw the other list. Yeah,
Kevor was one of them, but the other one is Snipe Cross, and he did not bring Tristana Teemo. He did not bring Tristana like Fizz or something like that. He brought Gnar.
Mono Gnar. Mono Gnar Ionia Fae. I'm playing him round 1.
Oh, Gnar's coming for you.
I think one thing that was really interesting going into the last week of prep for the seasonals was, it feels like, I don't know, maybe like halfway through the week, maybe at the beginning of the week, like every single top level player was like landing on the exact same Aphelios plus scouts. It felt like this was a really strong like base to a lineup that so many different like groups were landing on this exact thing independently of one another. And I'm hearing from over here, I'm hearing from over here. It's really interesting, trying to find like the third.
I don't think it was that independent.
People struggled with. Maybe not.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I'm telling you, I had a lot of different.
Right? Like I talked a lot about to Wombat, like Europe people, like things like that.
But the community is so small, right? Information travels like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you count the Wombats, right, everyone's fucking connected, right? Come on,
right?
Everyone has a Wombat.
The hive mind.
I think the interesting thing about like my lineup was I feel like I sort of went one level above in that because I brought Shellfolk and Pantheon instead of actually bringing Aphelios, it felt like I was better into all the Scouts players and all the Aphelios players. At some point I'm going to play like a Scouts mirror, but otherwise it felt like I'd sort of like next leveled it. Which I think
How many times did you run into those lineups?
I saw Aphelios twice. I saw Scouts a lot.
Scouts was very popular.
Yeah, Scouts was huge.
But yeah, the Scouts plus Aphelios, it was just for the open rounds, and I'm really not sure about the top 32. I'm still butting my head against a wall for the past couple hours. Like Scouts plus Aphelios was the core that I think a lot of people performed on, and it was just very, very solid. It was just about finding the third deck that was like finding everything to your liking. And I think, Jason, you were in fact on my lineup too, or like something very similar.
The exact same, I think.
Yeah. A lot of people with that, and even like Henneky, you were playing like Pantheon as your third deck.
Yeah. I was Scouts Pantheon or Scouts Aphelios Pantheon. Yeah.
It's solid.
I think lots of people run stuff like that. It just made a lot of sense. My seasonal obviously did not go equally as well. It just wasn't my day. Sometimes that happens.
You can't win them all.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was really interesting because Henneky, you were willing to bring Pantheon as your third deck, and I was always like, I don't know, Pantheon's not that good to aggro. Putting like an aggro hole in this lineup is like kind of weird. But then you got me to like start testing Pantheon. It's like, wait, this deck just beats aggro anyway. This deck just beats fucking everything. Pantheon's disgusting.
I mean, the thing with the other two decks is they're so like very actually like dominant into aggro. Like, so my thought was like, if I can win Pantheon against either of their aggro decks, one of their two aggro decks, then I'm just gonna be in a pretty good spot to win with the other deck that I have remaining.
And
which is
yeah,
like a pretty good spot.
And the other thing is like we do this dance every single seasonals. and I'm glad that we finally got some stats, which maybe we have previously. But
Mhm.
like, what was the percentage of like Pirates decks? It was like around 10-12% or something of the
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, which is high, but that's just Pirates. Like you can be an aggro lineup without Pirates, but Pirates should be in theory the most
Can you,
popular
though?
aggro
Yeah, I
deck.
was gonna say,
I-
can
I-
you?
I,
What
I
does it
don't
look like?
think so, but okay, I don't think it is good, but
Okay.
you can. Like you can be like a Yordle and Harm base like lineup, but people for sure ran aggro deck without like Pirates. Was
I
it
think I
wrong?
ran to someone
Probably.
who's on like Spiders, Nightfall, Yordle, and Arms.
Yeah, something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Like, just like
Yeah.
comfort aggro decks. Like
Here's the thing though. Like, I think aggro lineups without Pirates are probably getting smashed pretty hard, right?
yes.
So like if we could go back and do it all over again, I'm really the more the seasons have gone on, the more it's like this constant trend of everyone being afraid of aggro not doing particularly well ever, and
But still showing up.
definitely
like,
showing up. But like one of the things we don't talk about a lot in Runeterra is like the winners metagame. Because
Right.
so which basically means like once you get past like round like 5, you know, the good decks like the Phelios, Fizz, and you know Pantheon or whatever will be like more represented, and then the like bad decks or decks that don't do as well, like Pirates in this case, which did not do particularly well, will be much less represented, and you're going to have to, you know, play against those top decks a lot more, and you probably will play against them a lot more in the final rounds that are very important. And so, yeah, I'm really with Jordan in future seasonals. I really want to be targeting decks more, not like hard targeting or anything, but like there's lineups out there. There's always someone who always brings something that like after seasonals you're like, oh fuck, I wish I had thought of that. Like that looks hot,
Yeah.
right? You're like, oh, you're good at all
Yeah.
of this, pretty solid there. Like, and so. Yeah, and the second thing being, like we're talking about how everyone was on Aphelios, which did very well. I think you can count on the I don't know if you want to call it like the majority of people, but like a lot of the people in seasonals, especially the ones you kind of need to be fearful of, you know, like the better players, they're going to be with it. They're going to know what the current trends are. They're going to know what the current changes in the meta are. As you can see by Aphelios crushing. Do we know how many people brought Aphelios, by the way?
We don't have, well, it's somewhere in like all those stats article, but it hasn't like really circulated on Twitter like the biggest number. It was I can tell you it wasn't that high. Like it wasn't higher than the aggro thingy. Like more people brought Pirates than they brought the Aphelios, which is like my philosophy for open rounds has always been you're gonna play between 1 and 3 aggro lineups in those 9 rounds, and it is basically up to chance how many you're gonna play against. So every lineups that I top 32 with, there always was some kind of nudge, some kind of concession to aggro, just so like I don't have to live it up to chance. I'm not bringing something that's trying to crush aggro, but I'm always
you don't want to auto lose to it, which is totally fair.
Respect it.
Here's the thing, though.
All the Pantheon lists that we had were crazy tech for aggro, right? Like we were big, like Broadwing, Gifts from Beyond, and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. You want to be like, you know, having like 45s against them at worst. You're like, that's like an acceptable, like you can still win some of those. Here's the thing though. How much does this change if you need to go 7-2 compared to 8-1? Because I think like Jordan is saying, like he brought like 3 good decks this time and he made it. He made the 7-2, but didn't feel particularly amazing about it. Like I've done the same thing. I've like gone 7-2 a bunch of times. I brought 3 good decks. I did not know how to play them particularly well. Like it's not 7-2 is not that hard, right? Like that's not like a really tough record to get compared to like 8-1. 8-1 is a lot more difficult to do than 7-2. And so I think depending on which one of those you have to go for should maybe factor in a little bit to what your deck decisions are.
That is true.
Right? Like if you need to go 7-2, I think if you're a very good player, you can play 3 good decks, get there like a lot of the time. Not a problem. If you need to go 8-1 or 9-0, that's a lot harder. And
maybe you should
I'd look to target a little bit more.
Lineups a little bit more.
Yeah, not like hyper polarized or anything, but like I think going for a lineup that was targeting things like, I don't know if Pantheon was the right one, but like if you could be good into like Scouts and Aphelios, like that would probably like be a good starting point, and like not bad into aggro kind of thing.
Maybe once you reach like round 7 or 8. My win and in was against triple aggro, triple burn, and like Aikado's lineup that was beating Aphelios, he played against 2 of them. So it's basically still up to RNG and up to chance. yes, the higher in the win counts you're gonna go, the better, like the more of a correct representation of the metagame you should see. But that's still like it's a lot of big number. You're still like,
Oh yeah,
so
I mean,
many random-
there's always luck involved for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just
at
I'm just
5-0, I literally ran into a guy who was playing Howling Abyss and like
oh yeah,
Go
that-
Hard Darkness.
oh
And
yeah,
I
that-
lost. So I mean that was the one time that I lost. I'm just
Right,
That
because you
happens,
played
that
around
happens.
6
Whoop your ass.
or 7 or whatever it was.
The point that I'm trying to make is I'm much more on Team Jordan with like trying to target a little bit more than I am on Team Bay. Just play 3 good decks. I think,
Hey, by that.
yeah, especially if you have to go 8.
I mean, what I like to do pretty much every season is I like to bring what I think are 2 good decks, and then I like to bring like a third deck that sort of like skews what the lineup is supposed to do to like anti-polarize it. So something like what I did this seasonal was bring Pantheon. But like I like to like in the past some of my better lineups were stuff like, you know, a double flock deck, Azir Irelia, or something like that, or like double aggro as Draven or something. And that sort of stuff like lets you like kind of flex into matchups to get like different spreads and be less like polarized against particular matchups.
I'll go the opposite direction. The things that I've always felt the most confident on are when I'm running as close to 3 of the same deck as possible. Like I want to show up with 12 star shapings, man.
That's
I don't
fair.
know.
It's gonna say me. Yeah.
12.
9, sorry.
Yeah, he just had him. He's playing
Oh
4
my
ups.
god.
I want to
playing
show up with
Moon
9
Dreamer,
star
bro.
shapings, right?
Yeah, I get you. And that's like a completely like different philosophy. Is like, you know, you want to just like focus on winning the particular matchups you want to find, and then versus like, you know, just kind of like worrying about everything. And I think you kind of have to pick what you want to do.
Okay, sorry, real quick. Does it also give you sort of an advantage where like instead of having to learn 3 decks that like, yeah, they're similar, they're actually quite different compared to like you've basically learning like a star shaping deck? It, like they kind of do the same sort of thing.
So I think that this is one where I'm going to say for lots of people it would. I'm definitely the guy who likes to be able to play every deck in the format anyway, because I think one of the biggest ways to gain an advantage is to know what your opponent's thought process is. And if you're a high-level player who's played that deck, then you can know the lines that they're taking and the things that they're thinking. I think if you don't have time to do that and you're not looking for those extra couple percentage points, then yes, it's definitely much easier to be able to play one type of archetype very well than it is to try to be able to play 3 different archetypes, obviously. But for me, that doesn't really factor in as much because I want to know how the whole format works.
Yeah. I kind of feel like at this point it's kind of like impossible for like you to have a lineup where all 3 are like functionally the same deck in terms of how you play. You know, like
it's getting
FTR
harder to
Darkness
do that
Soul
in Runeterra.
Sure,
I feel like
FTR
there's a decent amount of them. Like it keeps happening.
But
Like
there's like different ideas, somewhat different ideas.
triple
like
tree, triple fey.
And Kev
yeah,
literally
like
just
okay,
brought
there are
2
some very
Aphelios
very
decks.
samey decks. Like you could bring just like Fey Pile and like Tree Pile or something like that. But I still like I still wouldn't touch Thresh Soul, even though I could play the other 2 decks.
That's because it's cursed. That's because the fucking deck is cursed. That has nothing
That's
to do
true.
with the archetype.
I think an interesting
Maybe.
counterpoint is, you know, we were talking about like, you know, trying to like not just play 3 best decks. This is the first time that I just like slammed the best deck into my lineup and I'm like, it's good enough. I've played like, I don't know, like maybe 5 games of Pantheon before
Yeah.
seasonals. And
How,
like
how,
now
how
I've
many times
played,
did it
like,
get? How many
15
times did it
games.
eat the ban?
I played 7 games on it, I think. I played a lot of Pantheon.
That's
Wow.
People were banning
that's crazy.
scouts a lot. And I don't know if
That's,
it's my name, but I saw a lot of Shellfolk bans too. Like,
Yeah.
A little bit of both.
Something that's like interesting, and it's something that we started to see pop up is you just kind of like you take that like archetypal thing, like, oh, I'm gonna play 3 vengeance decks, but then you kind of just replace it with like whatever you think the best meta deck is. And we saw this last season a lot. Like Finny brought the aggro go hard Ari deck as one of his lineups,
yeah.
and that was something that a lot of people ended up picking on. They're like, oh, this Ari deck is just so bonkers. If I'm gonna play aggro, I'm just gonna play this anyways. But that's still a thing. Someone Rogio topped playing aggro Pantheon. And if you believe like a deck is so strong, then you can just flex it into whatever lineup you kind of want.
Sure,
Pantheon
if
just
there's an
beats
actual tier
everything.
0 deck, then you play the damn tier 0 deck.
Yeah.
It's play and ban, right?
like everyone talks about like Pantheon loses the aggro. I was considering it, right? I think that like coming into the seasonals, I was like aggro's like one of the best positioned. I still think it is. I think it's like still pretty well positioned into a lot of the good decks. But having played Pantheon, I killed Spiders players on turn 5 too many times for me to be like,
yeah. What makes you think it's so good then?
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree.
Because it beats Pantheon really hard and it beats Shreema really hard. I think that a lot of times, is it always going to? I don't know. But it beats stuff like Talia's.
Well, no. Right? So where are you getting your data from? Are you using like stats, like ladder stats?
I mean, I could look at a matchup table if you want. I can link.
Yeah. So this is the point. This is the point that I was trying to get to. I think those stats are skewed.
Maybe.
Because I mean they are, right? We know that they are intrinsically, like, just because if you pool thousands of people together, you get like a rough estimate. But like the least in stats, are they very accurate? No, they're like, oh, it loses to everything apparently according to the ladder. Well, guess what? The decks that are much easier to play, they also have slightly bumped up. So if it's like, hey, it's a 55% for aggro, but you bump it down a little bit, maybe now it's more like 52, 51. Okay,
but like Pantheon
50,
versus Pirates, these aren't exactly like difficult decks on either side, right? Like which one's getting bumped up there?
The easier a deck is to figure out its plan, like the more you can trust the stats. I don't want to get into the whole
Pirates is way easier to play than Pantheon.
Oh, it's so hard to play Saga Seeker on 1 into Pantheon or into Yumi on 3.
What do you do when you don't draw Saga? What do you do when you don't draw Saga Seeker on 1?
Yeah, but
you play Goat on 2.
Oh my god, a lot of non-games. The more non-games
you have Goat on 2, how lucky.
Reroll, right? The more reroll you get, the more like stats
Riddle me
right.
this then. These decks, like Spiders and Pirates, they have like high win percentages like every single season on the ladder all the time, and they are basically never actually good in like tournaments.
Interpret the stats with a grain of salt.
In open rounds.
I think Spiders is
they don't
bad.
perform. They don't perform.
I will say that
seasonals.
Spiders, I think
those
bad.
decks are bad.
But
Spiders is
Pirates is great.
No.
I love Spiders, man.
I feel like that deck is bad.
Right.
I think Spiders is bad.
I want to say one thing about aggro is why I don't like it right now, and I've been pretty adamant in our Discord server. I think that your core of Pirate Scion is solid, and your third deck, and that includes Spider, Jordan, and your third deck, I think, is always not good enough to consistently beat things like Pantheon and Talia 6.
I think Spider is better than
That's
Scion.
my brand.
Bring Pantheon.
Okay, you just bring like or Aphelios.
Yeah,
I
maybe I say Scion because like I've played Scion and maybe I'd be biased and you can play it a bit more mid-range, a bit more aggro. It's very techable.
Sure.
But I think Parrot Scion was a strong core, almost as strong as a core as like Aphelios Scouts. It's just that third deck always provided too much inconsistency that you're more polarized by running aggro anyway. Like you're having actual nightmare matchup when you see like triple SI or things like that. And you're also adding some kind of inconsistency because your third deck, it comes with trouble and it doesn't even consistently beat the Pantheon lists that are teched to beat aggro. So I don't like triple aggro.
I'm gonna drop the mic here. This is like what did we say it was? Like 12% of
about 12%, yeah. Like
brought Pirates.
400 people between those all three servers.
One Pirate player made top 32. What is 1 in 32? What percentage is that?
3%.
It's about
3%. So like 12% brought it and 3% converted. That is
there's another aggro player that isn't on Pirate.
Terrible conversion rate. Awful. That's like the worst. It's probably the worst of all the decks. And here we are.
Okay, but it's
like,
still something you have to
good though.
Okay, there is another aggro lineup that qualified that wasn't on Pirates.
Yeah, it was
just for the record.
Yeah, it was a double aggro Pantheon, and not
we're talking about Pirates specifically.
That was the aggro one that made it. Was Rogios aggro?
He 9-0'd, didn't he?
Yeah, he 9-0'd. There was another aggro player who went Zoe Aphelios PNZ, which I consider an aggro deck with the list.
That's not an aggro. Okay,
Scion and Yodelin Arms.
Yeah, I'm not talking about any of those decks. I was talking about Pirates specifically.
Sure.
Pirates. Pirates had a horrible conversion rate.
One deck.
Yeah, but it's like
it's a bad conversion.
It's the centerpiece of aggro.
Well,
but back to my original point though, of like Pirates supposed to be good into Pantheon. And like, so, you know, if it's doing good into the best deck and people brought these lineups that are supposed to be good in the best deck, and then it bombs, it absolutely bombs. And Aikato's saying that he's beating aggro with it. It's like, I think maybe you need to like reevaluate.
I think you can high roll aggro. I think it's
I mean,
I don't know
if you're saying that as your representation, I think you're also not getting the whole picture of what's actually going on. I think there's a lot of
build
players.
These decks terribly.
People bring these decks because they're like, I don't know what I want to play. I'm not confident in what I'm playing.
Can't we say that
I'm just going to play aggro
every deck?
It's not people who are very confident on the deck. It's more like, I just don't think I can play anything else except aggro. And I think that's something that could happen.
I don't believe that.
I think people play Aphelios terribly. 14 of them made the top 32.
Okay.
Converted like a mother.
Look at it this way. Okay, look at it this way. If you take a top level deck that's one of the tier 1 decks, like Aphelios, Pantheon, something like that, right? And you take the random ass meta build from 2 days before the seasonal that you ganked from the internet, and you say, I'm gonna run half a dozen games on this, good luck. You're still gonna put up some results if you're a good player, right?
Yes.
If you take a deck like Pirates or Spiders that is supposed to be a hard-teched deck to beat specific decks in specific metagames, and you don't build it right, and you aren't playing it well, then you're gonna get fucked. And most people who are on aggro are going, I don't know what to do, let's burn some fools. I'm gonna say it right now. I am 50% on God to be playing 9 decimates in the top 32 season.
That's totally different than open rounds, though. We're talking about open rounds specifically.
Yeah, and the argument is not the same for the
because you almost any deck can be like good if it fits into the right counter lineup. Like, oh no, it's totally good if everyone's playing Talia Ziggs or something. Then this deck is fantastic. But like, we're talking about open rounds. Pirates converted like a fucking flat football or something.
I stand by it. I could have brought 9 decimates to open rounds, and I think I would have had a better tournament.
Wow.
I just a better choice than what I made.
I think, Jason, you're kind of right. Like, with how high the conversion rate was for Aphelios. I mean, if you brought Aphelios and like didn't top, that'd be pretty embarrassing, I think.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be embarrassing, huh?
if you're considered like,
I would have gone 7-2 also. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's
what makes a good deck, though, right?
Deck.
So Aphelios was played by, we don't know exactly, but like a lot less than Pirates, right?
Yes.
And it converted the most amount of people. Almost almost half converted with it. Like, that's a good deck.
No, half did not convert with it. There were not like 30 or
14. Out of 32,
I know there were,
you need 16.
It's not half of the people that brought.
I thought you meant half the people.
Half of the top 32. No, we're talking about how many people converted. Okay, sure. What percentage converted?
I think that's also like in the same way as self-selecting thing, because people who pick Aphelios are often these or were particularly interested in Aphelios for these people who were keeping up with tournaments and were
that's a fair point.
Playing in the
that's a fair point.
And stuff like that. So like they're also going to be more likely to succeed because they're stronger players overall.
Yes, and which is why like it's a bit skewed towards the top. But like that's why we see that Aphelios is like half of the top 32. Can we talk a bit about the controversies, or like would we rather not?
Yeah, no, fuck it, let's do it.
Real quick before we do that, one other deck that I want to point out that like had an insane weekend is Echo Zillion. Echo Zillion
that's crazy.
Put
I'm not surprised.
6 players into the top 32.
5.
It's kind of 5. That's fucking insane for
it's really good into the Aphelios Scouts lineups.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, otherwise why? Like, why would you do it?
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I was testing Echo Zillion today, for journalism purposes, and like that deck, man, I don't understand how they do it. I really don't understand.
It's literally like a 48% win rate deck.
Yeah,
but there's like 10 players on the server that just like crush on it. It's insane.
You know what's really interesting? This was really funny. We were talking about this earlier. Beast Llama's list is running a Hex Tech Anomaly.
Yes, fucking. I didn't trust that because somebody told me that on my stream
with
yesterday.
A main deck Hex Tech Anomaly.
There's no shot. Like, you're trolling. No, he did.
Not, bro, when you're playing a bullshit deck, like you take the 1% chance, you just auto win the game. Like, is what it
fair.
is. Like you're playing
Dude,
an
big
RG
words
deck
from the
anyway.
Shellfolk player, okay?
Bro, come on. I don't play Hex deck anomaly. I play Glorious
He at least
Evolution.
has to go find
Giga
his,
Chad.
right? He has to play Pharaoh's Financier and find it. He's not
True.
main decking it.
Oh, that's funny. Sorry, I just
do
wanted to
work
point that
for
out
it.
because that deck, I mean, I think it's one that gets sort of like slept on. Just because, like, especially on ladder, it has such a low win rate. Like the people who aren't good at Echo Zillion do not win with Echo Zillion. So I don't know. It's an interesting deck to keep in mind.
Yeah. Okay,
Do we
let's
wanna
talk
about
controversy. So yeah, I'm interested to hear everyone's like journey with the stuff that happened. I woke up, saw the tweet, and was like, all right, well, I was still kind of deciding what my third deck might be, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking whatever, rip some Fae fun. I don't care anymore. I was like, I just didn't care. I didn't care anymore. It was like just like the other seasonals. It was like it's a money tournament, which is awesome, and obviously like, yeah, I want to do well, whatever. But it's like it's not the same. It doesn't have the same weight, the same gravitas. Like, let's be real. First place gets $10,000, and then like I don't know, Henneky got high five or something a couple times. I'm not really sure. It like falls off a cliff, right? It's a tough tournament. It's a fucking. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go win that 10 Gs. Let's go. So,
it's a quality high five. Just for the record, it's a really nice high five.
Like, solid. It's a solid
one
high
of the
five.
like they're looking at the elbows the whole way, and you're making like really great contact. It's
a good
it's
smack.
It's a good smack.
For the people who don't know what happened, APAC has their seasonals first,
The
right?
poor APAC people.
And APAC had an issue in round 2 where like people couldn't connect, and there were like a ton of like game losses and game wins just like divvied out to people who didn't play games. So they like pause for like 2 hours and then they replay the round, which is crazy. It's insane to me that they replayed the round against the same players. But that's a thing that happened. And then I don't know if there were continued issues, but basically Riot said, hey, for the seasonals, it's not going to count towards Worlds qualification. Did we ever get confirmation on if top 4 is going to or not?
No,
Still not. They
Okay.
all said that they're going to talk about it this week, and we still haven't heard about it.
So
I would hope so, but
yeah, later on, then EU, I don't think had any issues. Or if they did have issues, it only impacted like a very small number of players. And then on the Americas, in round 3, a lot of people disconnected. There were like Riot-wide server issues. Like I heard Valorant was having issues too. I heard League was having issues too. So because of that, there were quite a few people who got kicked out, and there were just game wins and losses issued, and there was no replay, right? So a lot of people were obviously upset by it. That's what happened. As far as I know, there were not continued issues after round 3.
yeah, I'm gonna say that APAC, it wasn't just round 2. Like those random wins and losses, people said that they got round 1, round 4, round 5. It happened like a couple times. So it was just the tournament was pretty fucked. Haven't not heard anything bad from EU either. So I think they ran smoothly, thank to God. And we got just a completely different issue. It's just it keeps happening. It's not the first time. It happened the season of before, and it happened like 3 seasons ago. It's like APAC consistently gets fucked for some reason. Like they press start on the seasonal, something goes wrong. The limit tested for us, and it goes okay for us usually. And now we kind of got a taste of
we get screwed too. I seem to recall Majin not making top 32 because he had to wait too long to go on his date.
There have been like delays in the past.
Well,
right?
yeah, we get delays,
long
but
ass
we
delays.
don't get those kind of like game breaking or like match breaking kind of bug. Like legit, like in round 3, if you won game 1 and you got kicked out, both players get kicked out, and you win. The player that won game 1 is the player that won the match. Just because like that's the way the rule goes. Because basically all the games drew, and my score showed 2-2 lost. Because I lost game 1 in round 3. It showed 2-2. I've never seen that.
Bro, 2-2L, that's a fucking skill diff right there. I mean, that's just get good.
But it keeps happening. Like what do we think of it? What should we do? Like keep like hold them accountable, ask for more like communication, ask for like a better system. Like we've all asked that. I think we were on a good path, but it keeps happening again and again and again. And I don't know. I feel like this tournament series is just permanently fucked. And is there like a solution?
Yeah, they're hoping to fix it for this week, is what they said. But I mean, like, it's been an issue for a while.
Yeah, it's
And
like the fourth seasonal in a row.
I want to disagree with one thing that we said at the very beginning. I think that round 3 in America should just have been replayed. I think that was like a the fairest thing that they could have done, because like basically the people that got kicked out, basically nobody had control, and they just did that for APAC. They restarted the whole round. You just
I don't
play
even
against
think
each
that's
other.
fair, to be honest. Like, to replay it, because if you
Yeah,
already
'cause-
won, you're
Exactly.
getting fucked.
But
I can say
APAC,
somebody-
but that's what happened in APAC. Like people,
I agree.
like it's not
I
just the
know, I
people
know. I think that
won.
was a bad call.
Here's the
too,
thing,
but,
though. Yeah, so like, if it affects 100 people, 900 people play their round, and now you're gonna make them replay. Like how? Like that's
I think it affected way more, but
Well,
It might have.
NA
I don't
was a
know.
lot more.
I
Sure.
don't
I'm just
What
saying, no
Riot
matter what,
said-
it's unfair.
What Riot said was that it impacted a small group of players. Now I know that we are very connected with quite a few competitive players, and we all know like dozens of people that got
Yeah,
impacted.
my sample size
Um,
is like out of people that I know who were playing, like about a third of them, they all got DC, maybe a bit more.
Yeah. As somebody who didn't get DC'd, I played through my round. I high rolled some bad fucking matchups. If I had to replay that, I would have been salty. I would have been hella salty. But I totally understand. Like, if you got DC'd, that fucking sucks. And like, you want it to be replayed. I think it's a really difficult position where it's like, it's kind of like there is no win-win, especially if it is, like, I don't know, 10% of the people that got impacted, which is a ton of people. But like, are you really?
The scheduled tweet that they put out right in the middle, guys.
Oh, God,
Seasonal
that
is
was
coming
so
up. Happy
bad.
face. There's
That
no
was funny.
social media person that like deals with it. Riot Candy was fast asleep because he's from Singapore and like he dealt with EU and APAC. So there's nobody to just handle anything communication wise and just like hardware or software based. Like there's just like they press start and they run it for America. So that's why it needs to be pristine. Because the other region, I feel like they have Candy and we don't, and we're just like there's nobody else that kind of like is at the helm, and we're just hoping it goes well.
There was
Just
definitely a
wild.
major like hole in communication. That's what it felt like, right? Like during APAC, I was watching APAC because I, hadn't gone to sleep yet, and so I was watching it. I saw the Twitter updates where like Riot Candy's talking about it, but like during the Americas thing, like there was zero communication. There was like an in-client thing at some point that said, like purchasing coins is having issues right now, which was funny. And then there was this cool tweet that was like, hey, seasonals is starting. It's like, bro, it's round 3 A, B. Nothing's fucking happening right now. There's definitely a hole in communication that feels like no matter what, there's kind of no excuse for that. Even if like you can't fix the what was happening with like the Riot wide issue, even if that's something that you're working on, we'd like to have like at least a little bit of communication, right? Like just something, be like, hey, we know what's going on. Here's what we're gonna do to fix it. Just
it feels like
something.
there's no TO, like at all. Like
There's
whenever
not.
you have an MR,
Bro,
yeah, there
at
isn't.
Worlds, there was no TO.
There was a
There
TO.
was a
There
TO.
was Battle 5
Top
TO.
16,
Well,
there was
I
a-
can tell
They-
you about that.
You
Oh,
can't,
yeah.
that doesn't count though. If Riot goes like, "Hey, catch, you run the Worlds now," and that person goes, and the whole thing lights on fire, that's not a fucking TO. Like I could have done a better
There
job.
was no
of
TO
TOing that.
available because Kevor was talking to him for like an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
so
I
trying
don't
to
know.
help.
The guy was quite responsive at World's
Yeah.
qualies,
Yeah.
to be honest. But
Yeah, so
I don't know.
okay, so this actually though I think is a bigger problem. Is the big reason that we're having issues with Runeterra in general? Like why isn't there more stuff? Why aren't there more formats to play? Why isn't seasonals running correctly? Why don't we have cross shard anymore? It's all technical, and I think we're like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And the answer is like they can't. They literally can't. They're trying to get cards out and voice lines and all the cool, beautiful effects and everything working fast enough that when new cards come out, it's not a complete cluster. Like we run into some bugs and stuff, but it could always be much worse. And so, they're trying to do that and they're trying to fix everything else, but it's like, I'm not a dev, but it's one of these things where like, I read this article about Counter-Strike, and like people couldn't remake Counter-Strike or like fix things in it, because no one person knew like how it all worked, because it was just layers of code on code on code, and you try to change something and just like everything else starts to fall apart. And that's kind of like what, it's not surprising, right? LOR is a beautiful piece of technology. Like there's so much going on in there, right? Like so many little things all happening that we all take for granted. And so, you know, like they literally said they had to get rid of cross shard because they couldn't build other stuff. And, you know, and that's what keeps on happening. They're adding more stuff, adding more stuff, adding more stuff. And it's like hard for them to, you know, just get the game working and running okay, let alone like get seasonals working and build out other things. And I think that's the big problem, is that like they don't have the manpower to fix all this stuff and do it all.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I do not blame the dev whatsoever. And like even like all the technical issues, there's always going to be some kind of technical issues, and there's just like the team. Like arguably, I don't know the full size, but it is probably the smallest team at Riot working on this. Like just by design, and it's fine. Like there's going to be fuck up, just maybe a little bit more. Those like one day, like every 3 months, a little bit more like. Hands on deck, like just 1 or 2 more people that are dealing with it. Maybe there is, and we don't know. Maybe just tell us that there is people at the desk. There is people watching, even if they don't communicate with us. Like just the fact that I would know that there is actually people looking at this would make me at least feel safer, and like, oh, like, all right, there's a bug, something bad happened, but I don't think it's their fault. But they're there. They're actively trying to fix it, I'm assuming. I don't know if that was the case for this weekend. I don't think it was, but if it was, it'd be nice to know, and I think it'd be in their best interest to share with us.
Jason, I think you're muted.
Yeah,
Or
I think
are
you're
you not?
muted, Jason.
Oh, sorry. I said I think we found the static. I think it's Aikado.
Is it? Oh yeah.
Is it going on and off if I mute him and unmute him? Anyways,
I don't know. I can't tell.
okay.
As long as it's not me.
Yeah, I mean, communication's a big one. Like it's been fucking rough. Oh, hey, I found out, by the way, it's your top 2 finishes from ladder that count for worlds, not all 4. I had to go and track that information down because what the fuck?
I assumed that how it was because they basically hinted that there was the same system as last year, but it was not written down anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's pretty clear that there's no one remotely like us, like hardcore gamers, people that want to play the game competitively and stuff, or at least not a lot of them kind of running decisions, because like things like communication, the things that we're getting from them, the direction that they're going with you know the future, like the lack of revamping anything and just cutting coverage. It's pretty, it's pretty obvious, because like any one of us, I think, would do things like drastically differently. And it wouldn't be that hard, it wouldn't be that hard to just fucking communicate some stuff with us, throw us a bone. And, I don't know, it kind of fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Lighter notes, new cards.
They seem cool, most of them.
I like them so far.
There's a lot of cards, because on Friday last week there were just like Friday, was it last week? Yeah, there was just like a shit ton of cards. So I don't really know what we're talking about, but
Jin
I've been pretty
aggro
excited about
incoming.
most of the reveals.
Speaking of fun aggro decks, Jin aggro incoming. It's gonna be,
and
it's
Nightfall
gonna be a good
aggro
time.
being good.
I think that's a mid-range deck, honestly.
Yeah,
like
honestly,
I mean,
probably.
I think you're just killing on turn 6 or 7 a lot of the time.
At this point, if you're running Unto Dusk and the 7-drop, like you're not an aggro deck.
It's so yucky. Yeah, that's true. Nightfall mid.
I don't even know if you need Unto Dusk. Like it might. We're gonna have to find out, but that card is gonna be sick either in like the traditional SI Targon Nightfall deck, or maybe it's just like the finisher we've all needed in the Aphelios PNZ deck, because that deck's kind of already been leaning away from Star Shaping. So I am potentially very into this card in that archetype.
Yeah,
I think
well, I mean,
Aphelios
like Unto Dusk is
PNC.
just kind of a crazy card overall. Like it's always good value, pretty much. No matter like which Nightfall target you put it on, you just draw a card and you activate whatever. It's really, really good, in my opinion. So you'd probably play it. But if you want to go into like PNZ, then obviously you can't do that.
I think that you just play like mid-range Felios Diana with that card. Like, and I think that that's just like an insane game ender. Like, I think
Yeah,
that's
true. I don't know. I think Nocturne's also a pretty broken card though. Like, so if you want to do like a Shadow Wild strategy, I think you do want to be on Nocturne because that card is
It's beating.
it's a good card.
Very big boy, very quick. Lots
Yeah.
of
That's
that.
insane, yeah.
Nocturne's good, but like Aphelios though, and like I don't know, Aphelios tempos out pretty hard. I think Aphelios is probably going to be the way to go.
Yeah, maybe.
I mainly wanted to talk about the cards that got out today, the Tellstones, and like which is your favorites? 'Cause this is a design that for me, like coming from Magic, is kind of like there are charms, right? It's kind of a like whatever, like a shard of a color or card combo is named. There's like a Azorius charm, and there's always cards that they all the options seems kind of meh, but together the versatility, it's always like fun play pattern. Nobody's upset when charms are good, and like it makes for better games. It makes for better decision, and it's usually better the stronger player you are. So like Calstone, or just like we had Three Sisters, which was a perfect example of this. They just decided to print out the full cycle, and I'm a very very big fan. And also I had to read a lot of cards today. Like,
Yeah.
like the Mo tier list I saw, I
Yes.
agree. Like, wait, what the fuck is this? And what does more powder do? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I think they're super cool. I think that Three Sisters is probably like still the best one.
Yeah,
But oh my
Demacia
god,
is-
this Demacia one's fucking broken. I guarantee you this Demacia one is broken as hell because you get access to Barrier, which is insane. You get access to Detain, which like with Sivir, sometimes really good, and you get to main deck for Demacia now, and it doesn't suck. Oh my god, this card's broken. It's broken.
Yeah.
I think the
That's pretty
Demacia
good.
one's pretty solid. I think the Shurima one is getting really underrated. I think it's going to be a really good card, specifically in Lurk. And I think with that and the new rally, I think Lurk just got a couple of big buffs, and I would not be surprised to see it be a good deck.
There's only so much non-lurk card that you can run.
I agree that Shurima is a good one, like after reading it a little bit, but I don't know if Lurk is going to be the deck to play it. Like Lurk is getting better with, especially with the rally card that we saw they're getting added, but like that deck kind of does hate to run
non-lurk cards.
Sure, but the question is how many you can get away with, and the answer generally is 6 or 7, right? And you want some amount of extra 1-drops for consistency. You want some amount of 2-drop that predicts. And I think your spell is this card. I think you play 2 of these, and I think it's going to be really good.
I think it's just enough with like Treasure Seeker and Chronomancer. And
Yeah,
maybe
like I feel like
one.
I just want 6, just the 6 drops you mentioned, and then like I don't think people should be playing spells. But if people want to play spells, it is a pretty good
exactly
option.
Those kind of spells. It's a spot where they're great because of that reason, the versatility, and like I don't think it's the craziest thing to say like it's run into as narrows of the deck as Lurk, just because like the power level is usually like good enough. It's just they're always good enough.
I do think the Shurima one is definitely like, underrated. I think there's good options there. But why does Lurk want it? Because I agree, Ruthless Predator is really good in Lurk, but Lurk doesn't care about Spiritfire or Weight of Judgment, right? Why does it?
I think that Spiritfire and Weight of Judgment are both things that will show up a lot more often than you think they will. Weight of Judgment on something like Eye of the Dragon is a pretty good moment. Weight of Judgment on like Cythria. Also, Spiritfire is just an answer to these wide boards that tend to kill Shurima decks in general, and I think that's a big deal.
I just feel like even if you're going after Eye of the Dragon, or like you mentioned, like you would never pick it over Ruthless Predator. You know, it's like an extra 3 mana or 2 mana or whatever it is.
I don't know. Maybe I just like Ruthless Predator and I'm overhyping it.
Yeah, I mean those cards are good. Like myself, I think I really really like the Ionia one. Honestly, like
I do too.
Like this shit is value with karma, man. Yield 12, bro.
It's great in Karma, and it activates Eye of the Dragon really well. And having access to Stand United is a huge blowout a lot of times. The Ionia one's good.
The
Very
Onion
much
one's pretty crazy.
I think the most overrated one is Noxus. I think Noxus is like all right. It's fine. Like I'm not upset to use the Noxus one. I think it's like mid, but there's a lot of people that are ranking it like top 2. I think that's crazy.
I think it's quite good for like an overwhelm type archetype. Even potentially better than Sisters for that sort of deck, like your Darius Nar like overwhelm type thing.
Yeah,
but anything
Frid
else
or
I don't think it is very good. Like I don't think a flock deck will want this. I don't think an aggro deck would want this. So there's like a particular type of deck it hits, and I think it's actually pretty good in that deck.
I don't think it's better in Three Sisters because Overwhelm loves having Entomb. Like having that as your interaction, as opposed to what like the 8
Whirling is functionally the same like a lot of the time, right?
I think that Entomb is really good to hit back row stuff that you otherwise can't interact with. But I hear you. I think there's definitely use cases for it. I don't think it's bad. I think that like having access to Sharpen plus Whirling is like really good. The issue is that the third card is like basically unplayable.
Yeah, we've got someone in the chat saying the Weapons of the Lost is being underrated. So how much mana is this?
It's like 8, isn't it?
Approximately 30.
Yeah,
so we're gonna pay 9 mana.
9 mana
deal 3 and summon a 6/5, and we're underrating this card. Really,
bro?
Really, bro?
I mean, it's not bad. Like I'm saying, the Noxus one is more playable than the average Devilstone, I guess.
Sure.
I think hugely underrated one is Bilge Waters. I think Bilge Waters is actually kind of cool. I think having access to extra kegs like hits positions where like it's pretty cool. I think Chum the Waters is like really close to a main deckable card, and like sometimes the vulnerable is really nice. And then like having access to a rally sometimes, I think it's cute. I don't think you're running like I don't think you're like running a ton of it. Like maybe you run as a one of. If you hit it off of Concologist, you're really fucking happy. I think Conk hitting rally now, kind of insane.
Conk hitting any of those Telstones.
Conk hits landmark removal now in like half the regions, which is really cool.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, fun times. Not random at all. No, it is actually, I think, a good addition still.
So can we bring back 5 mana tree with the proper tree or whatever?
I'm gonna say the Bilge one. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I want to hear you talk about the Bilge one.
I'm gonna say the Bilge one. I think I rate also high enough, just because Bilge Water, as a region, you can run like 1 mana shitty spells, and there's decks that like is just good with it. Like I think a Nami type archetype, it just doesn't care really what you're doing with that 1 mana, as long as it's a spell and it does a non-zero amount of things, is going to be good enough. And I think exactly this card, like this fits. Like you're generating random stuff off your Burble Fishes. Like in Burble Fish deck, this card is amazing. Like
listen, I think it's fine when you hit it right off of a random card, but I'm not going to put it in my Burble deck. Like
you can't afford it. You can't afford
hear me out. Hitting it.
Like you say, if it does something non-zero, I think it's pretty close to 0, like what this Bilge Water one does.
but hitting it off of Burble Fish is kind
of
insane.
That's fine. Sure, that's great.
Burble Fish Bluffs.
Another one that I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, this one's really good," is the PNZ one. I think the PNZ one's really bad. I think Transmogulator hits very few instances. As somebody who's played a lot of like PNZ or a lot of Financier, Transmogulator doesn't hit that many points.
True.
And 9 mana Poggers Day is not that Poggers, and 5 mana Aftershock is kind of not good. I don't like the
them
PNZ
all
one.
Together.
It's decent.
I never want to cast that spell.
I feel like this is the case where I think it's a little bit more playable than you, just because of the versatility of the thing. But individually, all of those options, they're all bad, and I would agree. So like maybe one of in those deck, but I guess PNZ as a color, they're just like they're kind of doing everything. They don't really need that, so we'll see. What's your favorite run, Jordan? As you said,
I really like the Shurima one. As far as my favorite one goes, I think the Demacian one is probably the best. I think out of all of the new ones, Demacia is probably the best one because. And the main reason behind that is I think you kind of already played the Demacian one. A lot of the time you were playing Riposte. And I think that any deck that could have ever wanted Riposte now wants this. And this 100%. Is just going to be better.
Yep. I think something like Sivir, Demacia is gonna love this because like it's basically like sometimes it's like conservative.
I want 3 of that card in Sivir.
Sometimes it's barrier. Sometimes it's for Demacia, which is like an insane card for you already.
I think
you might even want 3 of it in Sivir. Like it's just kind of crazy.
The cool thing about Three Sisters and like what makes it good design is that it has 3 different cards on there that are all like kind of weak if you're paying extra mana for them, but they're hitting different instances, right? There's a buff, there's interaction, and there's freeze, right? And I think it's really cool. I think the Demacia one is the closest because it's like a buff, there's detain, which is interaction, and then the win condition, which I think is what makes it really cool. And like I look at Noxus one, and it's like, I don't know. I think Whirling and Sharpened Resolve are like pretty samey.
You think Trifarian Shieldbreaker is a win condition? It's 6 damage, Aikado.
Well, when you put it like that.
And 3 damage on top of that.
Exactly.
I don't know if you guys Cephalopod thinks that the Bandle one is the best one.
Gee,
what do you guys think about that?
This one is it's a tricky take for me. I don't know.
Yeah, they are really, really bad cards. Like all of those 3 cards, they're not good.
His argument is having access to conditionless removal, like Keeper's Verdict, kind of poggers. Ural Contraption, I don't know if he even made an excuse for that one.
It's landmark removal sometimes.
It's landmark removal?
Sometimes
you're going to pick that a non-zero amount of time because it kills landmark, sure.
And 4 mana Heroic Refrain that's crazy.
Listen, you're on your own, Seth.
Yeah, no,
I'm trying. Listen, his argument for this one is 4 modes. Okay, there's 3 cards, but Yordle Contraption does 2 things, guys. Sometimes you can draw 2 units.
Why does it draw 2 units?
Multi-region followers.
Riot really wanted this card to be fucking unplayable. I think you should just make it 6 mana, Yordle Contraption, and just summon the 2 units. Like, why can't this card be playable? It's so bad.
Wait, it doesn't summon?
No, it generates them in your hand, and you don't get to choose them. It's random. It's so bad.
Dude, there's 4 modes, Aikado. I don't think you understand. This card has 4 modes. That's why I like the PNZ one, too, because Aftershock does 2 things.
True, 4 modes.
4 modes.
I think the only ones we haven't talked about... Oh, you can go.
No, I was moving away from the Spellstone, so we can finish
I think, real quick, the last 2, Targon one is just like unfucking playable.
Wait, they printed a Targon one?
Yeah. It's actually unplayable.
I'm pretty sure they didn't. Yeah. I think they forgot Targon.
Yeah.
Poor Targon.
I think the SI one.
Good. It's good.
I think the SI one's really cool, actually. I think having access to like Mark of the Isles is like kind of a slept on card. And that being like your base level, like at worst, this card is Mark of the Isles, and I'm okay with that. But like, I think Crumble isn't that bad of a card. If you have the option of it not being Crumble, I think Spirit's Journey being like fast speed interaction is like pretty alright. I think the SI one's like not that bad.
Yeah, okay. I think Spirit's Journey is like actually like a reasonably good like tech choice to make the option good, because like it can act as protection sometimes for something like Vagar, but also it can just be like, oh, your Pantheon's attacking? Okay, not right now. I will do this later.
Yes,
it also resets cards, right? It resets these big buff things like Udyr and Victor. I like this one.
Udyr.
And there's a lot of decks that like have issue interacting with Crumble. There's a lot of matchups where like Crumble's good. The issue is that Crumble's fucking dead otherwise. And I think that having the option for your Crumble card to not be Crumble like is the best thing for it.
Yeah.
Or your Spirit Journey to not be Spirit Journey. It's kind of the same argument, which I buy. I kind of like it.
I'm gonna disagree with you. Spirit's Journeying the Udyr, like that thing's it's just a base 10/10. Like you're killing it, and yes, you got the regen, but you're giving him another stance anyways, man.
I meant against Udyr decks, if they're stacking up like their Broadwing or something, you reset it real quick.
Yeah, okay, true. Very true.
But no, I think it's pretty alright. But yeah, I think that's all of them.
So, any Illaoi fan here, or do you find her boring? Because I find her kind of just fine.
I found her quite boring. And
Jason, you're completely muted.
I was gonna say that's because we already played with her in Magic. If they were to copy paste something, this was not the thing I would have picked.
Sure, fair enough. I played a mass.
I just feel like I'm a little bit sick of the make one giant unit thing. Like I like the idea conceptually is that you make like the big tentacle, and then I like Illaoi like whips you with it.
Oh, yeah, you like
Yeah,
that
you like that?
conceptually?
Listen, conceptually, I like the big tentacle. that Illaoi whips me with.
It's not getting better. It's not getting better, Henneky.
Clip that.
The more you
Clip
say it,
that.
it's
Somebody
not
clip
getting
that
better.
ASAP.
Oh, please.
I think
I think it's cool thematically, but I wouldn't have imagined it like the tentacle mechanic to be like
It
a
sounds
giant.
like you've imagined it.
I think that there's good cards in there. You know, I think Tentacle Bash is really strong, but like there's also just unplayable cards. Nagakaburos, the 8-drop, literally
so
fucking unplayable. It doesn't even spawn on enter the battlefield. This card's so fucking bad. It's so bad. And then Illaoi has to go into combat to flip, so it's kind of like the Renekton issue, right? I think that like maybe this is okay. Maybe this will be playable. I'm not like super excited for it.
That's fair.
Nobody
That's
like
fair.
the tentacle lady outside of Henneky?
I'm I'm excited for the mirror matchup where like both players make a giant tentacle,
You start
and
looking
then
at each other.
whoever plays tentacle smash first wins because you can't respond with enough spawns.
Oh yeah, that's
Just how it's gonna be. It's gonna be
very
so
boring
dumb.
way. Yeah.
It's gonna be so dumb.
I really like the 3-drop that like kind of like makes the tentacle relevance, like give overwhelm to the tentacle, and the 3-drop that makes one like it's not gonna be only played in the tentacle decks, but the 3-drop
Those are
that
pretty
rallies fizz or that rallies tentacles or things like that are like I think it's a pretty cool card conceptually. Like it's a 3/2 and it does enough things. It's like good on their turn and your turn. So I like those design. But yeah, as far as like Illaoi like goes, maybe your shell fits like in a lot of different things, but that's just what it is. It's a shell of like 15 to 20 cards, and you just put it everywhere. It kind of feels like lurk, less intense than that. I hate that lurk is just like this is the deck. That's what you're doing, and then that's it. But she's still like similar in a way where like you follow the core, you need to play those cards, and like maybe there's some wiggle room, but I don't see it yet, but I think the
Wiggle
concept is
room?
cool. Yes.
Real quick, I want to get your guys' take on I have Nagakaburos. This is the 5-mana burst speed, draw 2, spawn 2. Because I got into an argument with my community about whether this card was good or not, so I want to know your guys' take on it.
I don't think it's good.
I think it's a pretty good card. I think it's overall a pretty good card. I don't think it's like game-breakingly good or anything, but I think it's a pretty good card. I think it's might be one of the best draw card in the game right now, other than like Whispered Words and Reputation decks. I don't know.
Here's the problem: the format isn't about that anymore. The game's not about that. Like 2-for-1ing
It's
people
true.
is not.
It still might not be a good card, but I still think it's the best draw card.
I think it's better than Salvage like 80% of the time in the same
Yeah.
regions for 1 more mana.
And Salvage sees 0 play.
It's true. That is a fair point.
Salvage sees play and Go Hard. I play Go Hard at least some every season. I'll
Okay,
play
you
Yeah,
play
so Salvage
everything.
sees
You
0
can't just be
play.
like that one card. No one knows what it does. Sees play because I played it
There's
that one day.
There's particular decks.
I
There's
keep
particular
winning
decks
with it.
Play
It
Salvage.
still wins tournaments.
Oh
Like
my
as Kate will play it. Like they play Whispered Words, which is functionally the same. And I think
Escape will not play it. It's in Bilgewater.
I know, I get that. If they could, I think they would rather play that than Whispered Words.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Like
Sure.
so you're saying it's functionally good enough to be played if such decks that would be want to be playing
Yeah.
those kind of effects would, which we don't know if those decks kind of exist.
It's true.
But I would agree there. So I don't think the card is bad. I think the card is pretty good, pretty decent as far as card draw goes. In a region that maybe card draw is sometime like it was only really Salvage.
I mean, so they already have Salvage, which again sees 0 play. I think that this card's literally bad in archetype. Like if you have a Tentacle and this thing's just like granting +2/+2 and you're paying 5 mana for it to draw 2, I think it's literally bad. I think it's
The
literally
thing
better
is-
in like archetypes that don't run this, so you get the actual unit. Like it actually
Yeah,
spawns the unit
I
instead of-
actually agree it's better
buffing.
outside of the
So,
archetype than
so we're
it
saying
is.
it's better outside of the tentacle.
But
Yeah.
it is the
Interesting.
only thing you can do to buff your tentacle when it gets targeted. Like it's literally the only thing.
So far.
I think.
Hey, do you have
I
to hold
think
up
that if
5 mana
there-
for your
that's
buff
bad.
spell?
That's bad. But
I
like,
think that if there's a tentacle archetype, then it's probably Illaoi Soraka, because you'll get to do the orthogonal win con thing. And I think there's a bunch of different.
Please.
You guys roll your eyes, but it's true.
Yeah,
And I
no, I
think
agree.
it'll have a bunch of different ways to potentially win the game, which that deck was kind of lacking, and Tom Kent was always a little bit eh. I think that the 4-mana spell that makes the unit and hits something with it is gonna see play a lot. I think that card is busted, and I think everything else is pretty mediocre.
it's great. I think Soraka Illaoi is actually like good because like you have like the typical Soraka plan, which you get like all these units, and then all the little stuff doesn't really want to attack, otherwise they get free healing. But then you also have a giant like tentacle thing, and I need to stop. I just need to stop talking about these damn cards.
You
But
got
like
two
that's gonna
thick
get a
ladies.
call unit as well. So like you kind of have the answers to a bunch of different things.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be kind of hard to fit the cards in. I think Raka decks are like already a little bit tight, but so I don't know how much like tentacle support you're really getting in there, and you want to really get in there with all that tentacle support, right?
Yeah.
So
Jordan.
I don't know. I could see Soraka being like an option. I think the Fae version, like, you know, just plays like broken cards. By Jordan. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Maybe you got hit by a big tentacle. Okay, well, you know what? We're over an hour. We should probably wrap it up. Anyone got any final thoughts they want to share before we say goodbye?
Top 32 this weekend. Like, it's gonna be pretty interesting. Like, I don't think we touch on it live, but I still think that, please, Riot, you should just lock us into playing whatever we played into the open round and shuffle the seeding, so like we don't know exactly who we're playing against. I think
Either or, like it doesn't have to be
either or. This whole extra week of preparation, I don't think anybody really enjoy. If you're like me and want to be like super optimal, and you're like, yeah, maybe I just run the same thing, but maybe not, and now I need to think about it, and that's all I'm doing. So I think it's still going to be a pretty interesting tournament, and that the tournament metagame right now, and we're at the end of the metagame. We're getting new cards. It has still been one of the most enjoyable tournament metagame that I've played in LOR. It's just like, no, you didn't like it? Didn't like it as much?
Bro, Pantheon and Talia Ziggs and Monoshima, I'm fucking done with this format.
But
I'm done with this format.
I think having like a top dog, it's a fine thing. But yeah, like there's overtuned things, but it's still okay. Maybe not the most enjoyable, but the most wide open. You can agree there.
I enjoyed this meta.
I can see that.
It's
I think,
the most wide open.
how many tournaments did you play in this meta, Fleuron?
4 or 5.
One thing I want to say about the seasonals top cut, like the whole week break, is I've been somebody who's been like, in the past, I'm like, oh, I think it's cool that you get to change your lineup because we see different lineups, we see different decks, we see, you know, a lot more variety in the top cut, and I think that's interesting. As somebody who top cut as a content creator, fuck that shit. I'm done with that. I would much rather we just shuffle it, because I don't like having to deal with the thought that like my opponent knows a lot more about me than I know about them, and I kind of am streaming most of my preparation, and like it's kind of hard to hide a ton of stuff. I would rather just we all run it back.
You just go on stream, guys. I could be bringing triple aggro. Really, who knows, right?
Okay, but like
just
unironically though,
actually just say it all week.
Ooh,
so you're gonna bring extra aggro, right? I mean, we talked about it earlier.
It would also let coverage be able to do a lot more interesting things, because like otherwise they just like, oh hey, what everyone bring, because they don't find out until everyone walks it in, right? Whereas they can prepare for a whole week and do a bunch of cool stuff.
I've watched the broadcast, and they're always like, before the pre-show is them always talking about what people brought last week.
It's super confusing.
Like, are they gonna change? It's like,
yeah,
it's just very confusing for everyone.
Question, as they do every time in the survey. Like, please, like, tell us the decks, but you have to answer the survey by Wednesday night, which is now. I put in deck codes, and I'm like.
Speaking of which, real quick, do you guys see? So first off, we got the new cards on that stream, and it was like 13,000 people, and it was like, whoa, what is this? And then there was this seasonal stream that had like 100 people for a while, and then went to like 200, and then I don't know, I stopped watching.
Then it
that
crashed.
was on Giant Slayer though, right?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, everyone was watching me. Like, come on, I was out there crushing it, bro.
Boom.
Yeah.
Just another two things. One, why would they not? I knew like a month ago at least that they were doing this coverage, but they didn't announce it until like 5 days before, a week before.
3 to 4 days before, yeah.
And then they did it on Giant Slayer's Twitch, which nothing against Giant Slayer, but
Well,
like
they've never done open rounds on the main broadcast.
have they really?
Yeah.
No, I
They've
thought they
never
had.
done it on Legends. of
I
Runeterra.
think it always been on Giant
Oh,
Slayer.
it was always on Giant Slayer, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, again, why not just do it on the
Yeah,
main one?
open rounds has always like not seen like huge viewership, but like the category was popping. I can say for myself, like what I don't know, the last couple weeks I've been averaging like maybe like 300 viewers. Like on Seasonals Day, I was up over like 700 a few times. Like it was kind of fucking crazy. There were a lot of people watching. I think that's cool.
Yeah, people
Yes,
still want to
that's
watch.
good. That it's
and-
good for you, Aikado.
It's great specifically. No, I think it's great for the game that there's that many people that are interested to like come in and watch like on Seasonals Day, right? Like
Do
this
you?
isn't, like,
I'm
a
just
normal weekend.
hypothetical, just hypothetical here. But like, do you think maybe those higher numbers had anything to do with one Fab player not streaming seasons?
And he would have had those numbers, right? Because
Yeah,
Majin
we still
sees,
still
like,
have the number in the category itself. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
category number was up more than it used to be.
Yeah, he's not flexing his own
Yeah.
personal growth. He's
Yeah.
more
I
talking
am
about,
okay, that's what I thought.
specifically flexing mine.
That's like,
Yeah,
like,
no,
I'm like,
yeah.
I had the best day ever, and I was like,
No, I'm saying like Majin
Dude, I had
on
4
Seasonals-
viewers. Not gonna lie, I kind of popped.
on Seasonals
What
days,
was-
like Majin's viewership's fucking insane too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure last Seasonals he was breaking like 1,200 viewers. Wasn't
what
he?
was the total that we hit? Because I didn't think it was that high.
I don't know. I think like Aikado was like the only
Oh.
actual stream, to be honest. Like, so it's probably around 11, like 1K.
Oh,
I think
thought we
there
hit
were
like
a couple
2K.
people that were we got a lot higher than 1K.
Really?
Yeah, because like
Anywho.
there were quite a few people that are hovering like
I
guess
just- I
with
felt
the EU
bad.
people were playing. Yeah.
Okay,
that's
well, I guess
quite big.
I guess I won't feel as bad then. I thought that open rounds also got decent coverage and was also on the main
No,
one.
it
And I was
never
like,
did
oh
before.
god, why is it okay? Well, that's cool. Fingers crossed. Top 32 goes a bunch. Come watch these guys kick some butt. Bring another trophy home. The old mantle
Maybe
needs a
we'll
third
see.
one.
I can't wait to cheer for my favorite player, Snipe Cross.
God damn, I play him round 1, bro.
bro.
He's getting like they're just like sabotaging the Canadians. Like we're like 5 or 6, and I think really. Like,
Henneky,
only
you
one of
better
us
watch
can
out,
account for it.
bro. That tentacle clip is circulating the interwebs.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Henneky clips always pop. It's just how it is.
Hey, you already
Farming-
told it. Like, no one's
farming
gonna be
content.
surprised, bro. You already tweeted about how interested you were in the tentacles.
Yeah, it's
like,
true. It's true.
you know, everyone
It
knows.
just wasn't it just wasn't the package I was looking for, you know?
Oh yeah, tell us about the package.
Which package were you looking for, bud?
Yeah, have a good night, guys.
All right, guys.
All right,
Until next time, watch the top 32, and
go on,
yeah.
guys.
that was great.
Go catch you later.
Bye.
Peace.